Good ideas for a Cold War fantasy world. So far, I have 2 big ideas for my Cold War era setting. An evil organisation pitting a major technological faction against a major magical faction so that they can come up with, or rather steal, breakthroughs in both technology and magic. They're all elves, and they're all called the Agency of Research in Magical and Armament Studies. And a faction based around the saying, better red than dead, consists of liches and other undead soldiers. Still need to figure out something red for them to fight that isn't too on the nose. Was wondering if you guys had any good ideas for a Cold War era fantasy setting.
I don't know about you guys, but Cold War is probably my favourite point in history, well, modern history anyway. I love
the tension of it.
The tension. See the amount of like wacky technologies that were built, like the really out there unusual stuff, and stuff gets outdated so quickly, and everything just gets updated. Honestly, I love it. Like, see any Cold War tech, I just think it's aesthetic as fuck. Also, Metal Gear Solid's amazing, and I was really into James Bond as a child, so look, don't hate me guys, alright? I've got issues.
What about something like Operation Eldest Son, but instead of sabotage munitions, it's cursed items? Or what about ectoplasm-based napalm controlled by necromantic pyromancers? Maybe Operation Wandering Soul, except the speakers are actually emitting the cries of lost souls, which is also the byproduct of seances used for intelligence gathering.
Oh, how powerful would seers be with intelligence? Oh my god, I've never actually thought about that.
Yeah,
that is...
for like interrogations, like, no, I know you done it.
Yeah.
Sorry, most of them are Vietnam related. OP Image just got my gears running.
But, like, Vietnam was aesthetic, to say the least. But you know what was more aesthetic? The Falklands.
Yeah.
Tell me the Falklands was not the most aesthetically pleasing war ever to ever happen. I really like these, but I feel like cursed items, I feel like they only affect the one user. So maybe, like, you could get, like, the general with, like, the pearl-handled pistol. Maybe you could do something with that. Oh, maybe with a pearl handle, maybe you could put, like, maybe like a lich's bone or something. Oh, you could really... Maybe a bit of mind control. I feel like mind control would have been the ultimate weapon with a Cold War. Like, if you got to mix magic in with it, I feel like mind control, seers, it's all information gathering. Like, if we're going to do this, like, actual Cold War, there's not that much direct fighting. It's so much in the back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's a lot you could do with this.
So this one is a good one for you to write down in the comments. I'd love to see what you say about it. So first question, what is the stalemate causing the Cold War? What are the dynamics that make it a Cold War instead of a hot one? A magic nuke, mad situation? That's possible. But I think you could make it more interesting than that. For instance, how about both sides have access to temples that keep portals to hell closed? But if full-scale invasion was threatened, they could open those rifts and demons would pour out. Could probably think of something cooler than that, but it's something.
I think that would work. It needs to be something... Both sides need to be at each other's throats.
Yeah.
They need to have a good reason to actually hate each other.
Yeah.
But there also needs to be something to actually... Like, the hatred needs to be overcome in some way.
Yeah.
There needs to be something that just stops them altogether. I was reading an interesting one a wee while back, and it was about a World War One. He was a pacifist in World War One, and he actually came out with a speech after World War II ended, and he says, "Yeah, we should definitely bomb the Russians before they get the nukes." And this is a pacifist saying this, which I thought was, whoa, kind of out there. But you kind of get the idea of just how destructive these weapons are. And if a guy is willing to, solve the horrors of World War One, and even he says, no, that shit's too far.
Yeah.
I think it says a lot.
But yes, write down below what in your fantasy setting would be the stalemate of causing the Cold War.
Yeah. I would almost go for maybe World War One never ends. And it is a genuine stalemate, and maybe both sides are using necromantic energy to just keep soldiers going.
They're
and the stalemate
they've killed most of all the living, and all they have left is the dead. And,
maybe this has turned into an
undead war.
Yeah, if it continued, if it just kept going and going and going, and eventually
you would just have to recycle your bodies.
Yeah.
Oh.
Makes Zombie Land, No Man's Land way worse, I think.
Way worse. Agent Orange creating cursed land where any who die on it return as mindless undead. as well as mothers and their children contaminated with it, can turn into the myriad of Southeast Asian monsters relating to childbirth. I heard Cambodian fighters had a lot of totemic practices before going into battle, but I'll have to look more into that. Maybe Cambodian berserkers? Besides that, there's plenty of Indo-Chinese mythology and folklore to work off of. What about French vampire coverns holed up in their overgrown plantations deep in the jungle? Conversely, what about French missionaries turned paladins protecting their last holdings in the region from both local magics and the destruction wrought by American necromancy?
I like that. I think you could go... I feel like vampires would make the ultimate weapons dealers. I feel like that's what they would... Either they would play an elite, bankers of sorts, maybe they're banking both sides of the conflict, but I can definitely see them as like some form of like shady arms dealers, even like low-level vampires, be playing that sort of role and exchange, like, maybe they've got like, they sell, like, people, even they sell their blood to the vampires for weapons and munitions and stuff.
Kind of being like Nicolas Cage and
Lord of War, but making
Lord
a
of War.
Yeah. It would make the whole AIDS thing way worse in Lord of War.
Way worse.
But I could definitely see that work. And I don't know, I just feel like vampires are great to throw in anything, but kill vampires, not like
not sparkly vampires.
Yeah, you guys know kill vampires. Everyone knows kill vampires.
I want to suck your blood.
I want to suck your dick.
There's an alternate timeline called Viver Militar Est, where Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan deploy supernatural horrors to settle World War II more favourably for them. The Allies counter that with their own horrors. In 2015, there are 5 major powers: Germany, Japan, the United States, United Kingdom, and Soviet Union. They are engaged in a Cold War and arms race against each other, while dealing with supernatural hotspots in regions under control of non-humans. Subject: gas plasma reactor. Hello, I hope everyone's having a nice day. I'm just giving everyone a heads up regarding the software for the new gas plasma reactors. There's an option on the program to view the rune script. Don't open it. That is for artificer use only. If you're not an artificer, you will go insane if you see them. On a related note, the artificer tells me the program has to record the sound of the gas plasma extraction process, or else it won't work. If you're an animal lover, don't go poking around the sound folder. Stay safe, everyone. Julie Leclerc, Senior Tech Support Administrator.
I really love this. I love, one of the things that I'm really interested in is Nazi Occult. I find it really fascinating, and there's fuck all about it online to really dig into, because
I think a game with that incorporates like Nazi Occult shit, I think it'd be very good.
I was a big fan of Indiana Jones as a child, and Nazi Occult just does it for me. I feel like it's just one of those things where it doesn't... The thing is, even if it's so bizarre and out there, that whole Hyperborean spirit where they're talking to interdimensional beings via DMT and just, it doesn't matter. But if they thought it was real, it really changes the way you should view history. One of the things I love is, and it's not written about that much, is the effects of drugs and alcohol throughout human history. How many, we all know that Churchill was an alcoholic and he was drinking brandy with breakfast. How many decisions were made with him steaming?
I know.
And that's just one example. Look at any, anyone from the Middle Ages, even older, Mongols were known for a lot of drinking. Chinese, big drinkers
at least now our alcohol is filtered quite a lot. Back then it was not. So God knows what other toxins were going about within the alcohol,
It's interesting to wonder what...
And drugs in general.
But how many decisions throughout human history have been caused by drugs?
By people who are impaired by their...
I think everyone knows at this stage that, Hitler was really into his methamphetamines. I think everyone knows that. And it really does make you wonder, well, what decisions were made because of that, and how did that come about? What happens whenever your leader's on meth, essentially, and what becomes of that. But to get back to the more horror elements, I love the idea of maybe using an undead reactor, maybe instead of using nuclear energy, you use some form of magic you gotta make it necromantic. Because I feel like with both world wars, the amount of death. I feel like if it was prolonged, if it just kept going, how long do you get before you actually run out of men? Like, let's be serious. England pretty much ran out of men, and that's why they had to, they, in World War One, a whole generation wiped out, essentially. They really did have to rely very heavily on everyone else, because a lot of them died early on. And that's where I feel like if this war was to continue, the only way it could be continued is with the use of magic.
Yeah, has to be.
Right, you slimy gets. As you know, we got all the gobble slaves hard at work keeping the printers tickety-boo. Some of them are even getting a bit sex-deprived and start making naughty models of their own.
Ooh.
But at the minute, we only paying them in bottles of water. But if you buy models from us, we'll be able to pay them 1 gold piece a week. That's proper good wages for gobbles of gat. But if big titty goblins aren't what you want, we got it all. We got dwarves, elves, illifids, demons, kobolds, all that, and even some of them ugly humies. But you can only get it on that www thing, Neckbeardia.co something. I'll get one of the goblins to do it, they're more tech savvy than me. Also, we got more than just the models. We got a lot of them subclasses and pre-made adventures too. Proper good that. We play it down Thursday night down the local tavern. We get a pint of grog and we sit down and play it. Big Morgie last week played as that crackhead monk, and he was actually quite good at it, seeing as he's not right in the head ever since the barmaid whacked him for smacking his tits. But, yeah, go over and check it out. That's all me. That's me, darling. See you back. Bye!
The Cold War is simple. Russian and American scientists have both used robot probes to visit an alternate Earth.
The Hyperborean spirit is real.
The temperature is near 0K. It's a lifeless, frozen alternate universe. Weaponizing this technology was trivial. They opened this portal using a device mounted to a bomb or ICBM, and the extreme cold freezes whatever you drop it on, and the surrounding area. However, after mucking about in this world for some time, it turns out that a beast does reside there, and it's moving closer to Earth every time it detects heat.
Pacific Rim.
Yeah. There's nothing preventing it from using one of these bomb blasts to move through and suck the heat out of our universe. So after freezing the shit out of a couple of unlucky Japanese cities, the USA and Soviets have a tacit agreement not to drop a bomb on each other, because doing so might invite the destruction of the whole planet. Curiously, the surface of alternative Earth is dotted with arcane pyramids, probes recording the writings on the walls, and after the development of IR cloaked, insulated heat suits, some scientists were able to successfully visit these sites reasonably safely. However, after deciphering an ancient writing, reading it has sent some of the teams completely insane. Others come back with strange psionic abilities.
I love this Japan, they literally out of the frying pan and into the freezer.
Yes.
The way I would do this, no, I think you need to make this work. It needs to be a direct runoff from World War II for a good Cold War. It needs to be like instantly coming across. So I feel like this you could work with. Maybe this is why the Nazis loved the Arctic so much. Maybe there's a naturally occurring one of these portals, and maybe they think like this beast is a super weapon of sorts that they could maybe deploy, or maybe even like control to a certain extent. I feel
proper
like
Hyperborean.
yeah, definitely Hyperborea. Turns out maybe Hyperborea is like the Chaos Warp, like from 40k. Maybe you can make it like more like one of the other guys were saying, like a demon.
And they were trying to find a way to control it, to be able to weaponize it. Maybe.
Yeah. It would really sum up like maybe with that's why the Nazis did fight to the very end when they could have just given up. Yeah. Maybe it's they are trying to recreate. Maybe it's like a ritual to try and recreate the Rotterdam, the Twilight of the Gods, and by them doing so, they're like making some form of sacrifice of themselves to then bring forth this beast, or is that just the ramblings of a fucking schizo? I don't know.
Could be, but sounds interesting.
I think it's interesting. I think it's kind of cool. I love the idea. Let's keep going.
Something that I kind of strongly put into consideration is, when does the magic show up? Especially when you have situations where you want to have an alternate history. For a Cold War setting, it's not best to have, say, token races having significance or even existence, because it distracts from the reason said historical events happened. So having magic suddenly pop up in the second year of the Cold War era keeps all the powers motivated to continue, because without history unfolding normally, it wouldn't have gotten to that point.
Oh, so you know what you could maybe do instead? Maybe instead of Nazi scientists, it's magic, it's Nazi wizards. Maybe it was the Nazis that first came about with this power, and then everyone else was like, oh shit, get rid of that before they take over the whole world.
Yeah,
that would work.
The Cold War was an economic war, and a realist one where the US decided to act as the opposite to the USSR, because it was growing so fast that it threatened its homogeny and status quo. Throwing elves and dwarves and shit just turns that into a clusterfuck. That is why supernatural templates work so well. Why zombies and werewolves and vampires are so great in modern fantasy, because it's not a human. Elemental spirits are a great addition, and to be honest, everything but the token races, because they are all physical creatures and you have to jam them in. But spiritual creatures and summoning myths and imaginary monsters are such kick-ass. Travelling to other planes of existence is also fine. But weapons of mass destruction, propaganda, and sketchy counterinsurgencies should be the name of the game. D-bombs, intercontinental missiles that summon an aspect of death to kill a town's worth of people. MK Ultra going way too far. Magic being held by the elites via copyright contracts versus sharing it freely. Then those elites going and teaching religious zealots war magic with a twist, making it holy, just to keep the free mage society from expanding. Magic-fueled ultra-capitalism, Patriot, Super Soldier program, etching magic into known sociopaths and dropping them behind enemy lines alone. Also has a suicide spell if they get caught.
I think this guy gets it.
Yeah.
I do really agree with him that I feel adding magical races, like adding elves and dwarves and stuff, it does kind of take away from it. This is what I've kind of got with, I do love Shadowrun, but I feel like, you know, well, I suppose Shadowrun's not working on like a real historical event.
Yeah.
Whereas if you try and push these creatures into it, you're kind of just shoehorning them in.
You're trying to drum it in where
they've got their own,
more supernatural type of things work better.
Yeah, it does. I would definitely agree with that. I would love, for me, I think I would go hyper MK Ultra. Most definitely. A lot of mind control, a lot of subversion. I feel like MK Ultra would be the best one to go about that. Like, you know, what type of soldiers could you create by this, or what type of spies even? You know, I think there's a lot you could work with this. I do, you know, I don't know, Cold War without Nyx, so I get you want to make a magical element to it, but Nyx are aesthetic. I'm sorry, you need to have that mushroom crowd. If you want Cold War, you need to have that. I just can't picture it any other way.
So on the topic of MK Ultra, somebody asks like how far is too far, and he replies, "There's so much breadth and depth for shenanigans when you introduce functional magic. Experimenting on what happens when you use permanent effect, spell, and mind-altering drugs. Killing people over and over painlessly and resurrecting them to see if there's any degradation of personality or soul. Applications for mind control magic. And trying to use the most subtle spell to cause pavilion responses. Synthesizing drugs that open you up to demonic or eldritch possession. Anti-magic nerve agent testing.
Oh god, that's gotta be the worst thing I've ever heard.
Breeding polymorph people to see what kind of offspring they can create with various animals. Eugenics programs to breed the perfect magical human. Whatever else you can think of."
Yeah,
You could go very far with that.
you could, and add in extreme like what ifs of like, okay, we're gonna create, like, we can literally do anything we want. No ethics, no nothing. But let's add magic to the mix and see the extremes of what we can come off with. I'm thinking a lot of Ed Gein tier
Stuff,
shit.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like over the top.
Yeah.
But I do feel like MK Ultra would be the route I would go down, and I would create, like, you know, the ultimate super soldier using MK Ultra techniques.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I would just make Metal Gear Solid the Coke unit, essentially.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
In real life, the United States Information Agency set up a psychological warfare operation in Vietnam that operated out of a sugar plantation near Saigon. Their mission was to produce propaganda materials to convince VC to surrender and become re-educated in various camps and facilities they set up for that purpose. One of their most prominent projects was the Ghost Tapes, designed to be played at night in the jungle by SOG teams to scare the VC. They were called ghost tapes because they were meant to mimic the sounds of Vietnamese hungry ghosts, or the lost souls of people who had died far from home, who had never been properly mourned by their families, doomed, according to folklore, to wander the jungle for the rest of their lives. Despite all the time and research and invested in these projects, they were not very successful in bringing the VC guerrillas, who tended to surrender and then used the time in camp to heal from wounds and regain strength from regular rations, before going back into the jungle to fight again. If you added a fantasy element to it though, with casters on both sides slinging magic in the jungles, summoning creatures made of pure fear that prey on the minds and bodies of their enemies, perhaps even literally possessing the body of an enemy to get them to turn and join them, it adds a pretty terrifying additional dimension to the conflict.
What's that warlock spell, the thingy laughter, hideous laughter or something? I can't remember, but I think that works very well.
Perhaps the Americans used their superior technology to broadcast those types of spells far and wide, all created by devils in Madison Avenue suits who never take off their sunglasses, the better to hide their split pupilled eyes. The VC have to be more pragmatic, leaving behind magical booby traps to ensure the souls of unwitting GIs, or making one man in each squad a designated magical suicide soldier, carving lines of glyphs into their flesh and turning them loose to jump into a foxhole or CP bunker, exhaling some terrible curse they expire.
Never thought how bad magic and suicide soldiers would mix so
Magic
perfectly together.
in Vietnam.
There's something
general.
Vietnam has to. It does. Vietnam has a very natural horror element to it anyway,
yeah.
just because the jungle's so dense
and hot
and everything sticky, and it just feels like, you're going on for days and days, and then for some reason it just starts leaning, and it doesn't stop leaning for
and
fucking
it's still
ever.
fucking hot.
Yeah, I do feel like, and especially Vietnam folklore, they are very superstitious people. That doesn't help add to the tensions at play.
Yeah.
And you don't know if maybe they're watching you, like the eyes looking at you in the dark, that type of shit.
I know, the tree starts speaking in Vietnamese.
Exactly. I think that's where we're going to end, though. This thread is absolutely fucking gigantic, and there is so many. It's honestly one of the best threads on TG in a long time, and I've been wanting to do this. It's been up for over a week, and I've been really wanting to do this, and there's a lot of wee stories that people have written, and we'd love to cover them, because I just really enjoy this thought experiment, a bit of world building. I don't know, I'm into this type of shit. What way would you guys work this?
Yes.
What would your angle be if you were going to do a Cold War fantasy game? You know what? You don't actually need to worry about that, because Guardbros already got you sorted with the Veil Guiders.
Yes.
Which is really ain't that far off.
Yes. Links down below to buy his book.
Yeah, check out his book.
Go check it out.
It's worth checking out, or check out his channel. Or, if you go over and help him on his Discord, they are still test playing the Veil Guiders game. I got to play
Twitch.
Oh yeah, he plays.
Check out his Twitch. He plays about twice a week.
Yeah, he plays it. It's actually me and him. We were playing it last Sunday, and it was actually a lot of fun. I really like the combat system, but that's enough of Veil Guiders, because you guys go check it out yourself, because it is worth checking out.
And while you're down there, check out the links to our website. Check out the models, subclasses, all that good shit. Hit subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get notified every time we post. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye.